On that. Okay, now we are official, and welcome to the Journey to Health weekly call. I'm going to go in and mute you just for now. I'll unmute you at the end. And here we are. I want to congratulate Laura Bainski for hitting Emerald this week. That's a major accomplishment. I know she's quickly growing amongst our team and changing lives in the process. I love reading the comments under her posts and so forth because they're full of, I'm just so glad to have you back in my life. And she's reconnecting with people and doing all the things that we say over and over you should do. You know, she's just textbook. If you follow the steps, you will be successful. And so she's doing great. And I just want to congratulate her on that. And Elena, I want to congratulate you too, because you've reestablished your Emerald, here to stay. And that's, you know, that's one of those things, like you hit the goal and you're so happy to have hit it, and then you fall and it's kind of like, oh, you know, and sometimes that can be kind of a hurdle to get it back. And I struggled with that a little bit too. I had dropped Emerald one time and it just seemed like it was so hard to get back once I, you know, it's like this mountain all over again. So congratulations. I know it took you just as much work to get here the second time as it did the first time. What I want to talk about today is we pay $15.95 a month as a quote unquote coaching fee. And I think sometimes people get wrapped up in like, it's just a coaching fee, and they don't really stop to think about what all we actually get for $15.95 a month. We have the back office available to us, and that's, you know, basically the difference between somebody who is not a coach and somebody that's a coach is the back office. And that back office is just, it's full of stuff for us that I don't think any of us, myself included, really utilize to its fullest potential. One thing is the breaking news. You know, that is something that I don't know if you're checking that every single day, but you definitely want to be. They don't always post every day. It takes but a second to quick check in though. And when they do post, it's always pertinent information. It's always important stuff that we need to know as coaches if we're trying to build a business. And even if you're just a discount coach, and I shouldn't say just, because, you know, all coaches are important, but even as a discount coach, checking that back office and checking those breaking news stories and so forth can give you personal information that you need about new products and things of that nature. You know, you've got the 25% off. You may as well be taking advantage of knowing what our newest line of stuff is when it comes out. So there is a new section when you go to your breaking news. There's a new section as you scroll down called training tools. And they have a ton of stuff in there. They've already got like 9 or 10 posts in there. Some of them you may have caught if you're checking your breaking news, but there's a section on teaching you how to reverse engineer your goals, which is a major thing. It's very easy to sit down and write out a list of goals. I have, you know, my August goals on my whiteboard, and I can at the beginning of the month just rattle off a bunch of goals and just write them down. But if I don't sit down and think about what it's really going to take to get to that goal, then it's really just nothing more than a dream. And I'm not actively doing anything. You know, it's kind of like a wish, like, well, I hope I hit Success Club 10. Well, if I don't sit down and think about how I'm going to actually hit Success Club 10 and make a plan of action and space it out over the course of the month, then it's probably not going to happen. So that's definitely something to check out. They also have a link to like some tips on how to find more people. And as far as I'm concerned, like, you can't ever read enough information on how to find more people, you know, like it's great if you have a system that works for you, but having more than one system is great too, because, you know, I go in spurts where it's like, I just said to my husband this morning, I'm like, wow, I just keep getting new friend requests. All of a sudden, every time I log in, I've got friend requests up there, and I'm like, yay, you know. But then there's spurts where you have to go fishing and you have to find people and you have to build relationships by getting into those groups or doing whatever you can do to, you know, strike up conversation and not seem like a total random stranger sending you a friend request. I strive really hard not to get myself put into Facebook jail, because that, as far as I'm concerned, would be a huge setback in my business. You know, 30 days with no Facebook access would really derail my plans for sure. So going and checking out those training tools, they're all just useful things. And at this point, when they put out training tools and such, they have what are called area market councils. And then they have the actual coach advisory board. The coach advisory board is a group of top coaches that they've put together that kind of comes up with like policies and such like that. But the area councils are prominent coaches in that area. So we have like an Indiana Market Council, there's a Michigan Area Market Council, and they're the people that are putting together things like the training tools. They're people that are in there in the trenches doing this every single day just like us, and they've found things to be successful. And so as a team, they're collaborating and coming up with best practices. So that stuff is nothing but tried and true measure of things that have worked for other people, and there's really no reason we shouldn't at least read through it and see what we can do to make the most of it. In the sales and marketing tab, there is a webinar that they have put out that is explaining the science behind our new performance line. I really, really highly recommend going and watching this. I have not yet, but it is on my list of things to do today. We need to be, with this performance line, I feel like this is something a little bit different where we really need to know what we're talking about, and we shouldn't just guess or just talk or just promote it if we don't really understand what's behind it. I talked a little bit about it on our last team call where we talked about the fact that it is approved for athletes and so forth and so on. But before, this is for people with serious goals. Not, it's not the same as like somebody just picking up TurboFire and deciding, well, I think I'm going to start working out, and the plan's all laid out there for them. So I just feel like before you talk to people about the performance line, you really should have a good idea about the ingredients. There's a huge difference in our ingredients versus what you would find in a GNC pre-workout or a GNC recovery drink. They have all of that stuff on the shelves there. Just this week in my dentist office, this is kind of funny, but I had some cheap pre-workout that I bought off of a shelf that I was finishing up. It was from when we went to Summit. I didn't have time to get a new thing of E&E, and so I had bought this cheap stuff, and it was red. And when I'm having front teeth work done, when my dentist popped off my temporary caps, they said they thought that they had previously stained them pink to match my gums. And I started laughing because I realized that it was that pre-workout that had stained my temporaries, not anything they did. Well, here's the reality of it. Like, that's actually pretty gross when you think about it. That pre-workout has, probably red number 400 in it, and some kind of dye in there that is literally staining my teeth. So knowing the ingredients that we have in our performance line and being able to talk to people about that difference is a huge, huge selling point. And it's such a big deal because really the stuff that I probably was putting in my body with the cheap pre-workout is not nearly as good for me. And, there's probably chemicals in there that are causing, havoc inside me and so forth and so on. So I would highly recommend you go and watch that webinar. Under the news and training tab, I hope that you have all been in there since they have revamped the back office. Something that I think is really important, there's the Getting Started tab, there's the Coach tab, the Emerald to Ruby tab, the Diamond to One Star tab, and then it just keeps going up and up and up from there. There's 4 sections in each one. There's the Do This, Know This, Learn How, and then the Team Builder benchmarks. The Do This is kind of a checklist of things you should be doing at your current rank. The Know This is what you should know about the company and about coaching and, about the back office and so forth at your current rank. The Learn How is teaching you things to help you reach beyond. And then the benchmarks are something that I think we should all have the benchmarks printed out and be striving towards as personal goals in order to get to that next level. Something that I would highly suggest though, and this is actually going to be your call to action for this call, is if you are currently Emerald and you're working towards Diamond, then go watch the Diamond to One Star section, learn all of that information, set those benchmarks on your desk and make those your personal goals. As you reach those benchmarks, you're going to be you're going to hit diamond. You know, you can't be doing the diamond activities day in and day out and not hit diamond. So that is something I would highly encourage you to be checking in on a regular basis, and watch too, because they do make changes. I would suggest, if you haven't watched the coach section, to go back and watch it, even though you're past that, because those videos contain information that you needed to know and still probably need to know. That's where you learn all of your stuff as far as like the compensation plan and the back office and things that, you know, you may just not even realize you don't actually know. It's also a good refresher, because when you watch that stuff in the beginning, learning about things like team cycle bonus is so confusing. It makes no sense because it's not reality to you. But when you start receiving team cycle bonus, now all of a sudden you're like, oh, so how does this actually work? And like going into your volume carryover and stuff can be so confusing. But those reports or those videos that they have back there, like they break that all down for you, and it just makes it so much simpler. So I would really suggest, that's my call to action for you guys this week, is to go in and start at the beginning. If you get started in a video and you know you've already watched it and you feel like, you know, if it's telling you how to edit your website and you've done that and you know, well, then don't waste your time, you know. But if it starts talking about compensation and you feel like you don't have 100% clarity on that yet, then definitely check into it and just, you know, listen through another time, and you might pick up things that you didn't pick up the first time through. Another section of our back office that I think gets highly ignored is the Success on Demand tab, all the way over to the right-hand side. That tab, and actually I think it just says success right now, but when you go into it, it's Success on Demand. You know, we're always preaching about personal development, and we talk about this new book and that new book, and unless you're going to the library on a regular basis, that can kind of add up, getting books on, you know, constantly and so forth, and then you have like all these books all over the place and such. And it is nice, like, you know, I'm old enough that like e-readers and all of that came out in, you know, not that long ago to me. I spent most of my life reading books, and it is nice to have a physical book and be able to highlight and such. But in the Success tab, that is actually written by Darren Hardy, who's the author of The Compound Effect, and he is the editor of the magazine Success on Demand. So Beachbody has an agreement with Darren, and that Success tab is completely articles that he has compiled for his magazine. They're not necessarily all articles that have been in the magazine, but like as he's going through articles and such, then he places stuff in our Success tab. So there's videos back there, there's articles back there, and you know, sometimes if you're, let's say you're waiting for an appointment and you forgot your book, I mean, you can log in off your phone and literally just read an article. But there is tons of free personal development back there. And that's all part of our $15.95 a month. You know, everything I just talked about is stuff that's, you know, being provided to us. And I just feel like most coaches, myself included, don't make full benefit of what we have available to us. So I would encourage you to spend a little more time in your back office, really get to know where things are, and then start, you know, making use of what you do have at your fingertips. Now I'm going to completely switch topics on you. I wanted to talk about the difference between regular and vegan Shakeology for a minute. I think that sometimes people forget that there's more to it than just animal-based or not animal-based. And the word vegan scares people, especially when you're talking to them and you, like when I go through and I list all the flavors, immediately people will be like, oh, well, I don't need vegan, you know? And that's just, it's a mindset because they think, well, I'm not a vegetarian, so why would I need the vegan kind? So I just wanted to quickly talk about the difference between the two. Both Shakeologies are soy-free. So even though we have a vegan formula, if you go to the grocery store and you look for any kind of vegetarian or vegan food and you flip it over and read the ingredients, I can just about guarantee you there's soy in there. They use soy as a filler for everything to avoid using meat products. And that's really unfortunate because there are other options. But so, for example, our vegan Shakeology has a protein blend, and it has things like chia and flax and amaranth and pea protein, and there's a couple others in there. And I would actually encourage you to look up all of these and get an idea of why they're being used as the protein. But the big important thing to know is that it is a soy-free product, even though it's vegan. And then our vegan formula is dairy-free. So when you have people that say, well, I can't drink shakes because I'm allergic to milk, or I'm lactose intolerant, or I don't do dairy, well, our vegan formula actually is completely dairy-free. So many people that have had digestive issues and are afraid to try Shakeology because they have things like IBS or colitis, the vegan formula works out really well for them. So that was just something I wanted to make sure that you were aware of. And like I said, our call to action is to go to your training tab and pull up all of those different sections, watch through anything you haven't watched through, watch through anything you feel like you need a refresher on, and then go to your next level and go through everything. Go through the know this, the benchmarks, and set those benchmarks as your personal goal for the month to get through those things. And that will help you get on to that next step. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording so that we can go to the Q&A section.